Look, we all know there's a ton of classic games out there, right? But how many have you actually played? I'm betting there's a few gems you've missed, so I've put together a list of 15 classic games that, honestly, you probably haven't touched. Some are weird, some are old, some are just plain awesome. And yeah, maybe you've heard of a couple, but I'm willing to bet there's a few here that'll surprise you. Alpha Protocol 2010. Man, Alpha Protocol is one of those games that should have been a huge hit, but instead it just kinda got buried under the radar. And that's a damn shame, because this is easily one of the most underrated RPGs ever made. Think Mass Effect, but instead of space and aliens, it's all about spies, conspiracies, and backstabbing your way through a thriller. You play as Michael Thornton, a government agent who gets burned by his own agency and is basically left to fend for himself. What follows is a globe-trotting adventure where you uncover shady government secrets, infiltrate criminal organizations, and decide whether to play nice or just go full on shoot first, ask questions never. It's all choice driven, and the game actually remembers how you treat people, way more than most games do. Help a guy out early on, he might hook you up later. Screw someone over, they will come for you even when you least expect it. Now let's be real, the combat is janky as hell, the shooting feels weird, the stealth is hit or miss, and sometimes enemies just stand there looking confused as hell. But where Alpha Protocol truly shines, yeah, I said it, is in its dialogue system. It's all fast paced, no pausing, and you have to make snap decisions in conversations. And unlike a lot of games, there's no good or evil route. It's all about how you want to play your spy. You can be smooth like James Bond, aggressive like Jack Bauer, or just a complete wild card. The game doesn't hold your hand, and that makes every interaction feel real.
Oh, it did. And I thank you.
And let's talk about the branching story. You can completely change how this game plays out. Different missions unlock based on your choices, different allies or enemies show up, and you'll even get entirely different endings depending on who you pissed off or worked with. It's the kind of thing that makes replaying it actually interesting because no two playthroughs feel the same. The problem was that Sega rushed it out and it's got bugs, janky AI, and some mechanics that needed more time in the oven. But if you can look past that, Alpha Protocol is one of the best spy RPGs ever made, and considering we barely get any games like this anymore, it's absolutely worth tracking down. If you never played it, now's your chance to see what you missed. The Saboteur 2009. Now this is one of those games that had no business being as cool as it was, but here we are. The Saboteur is an open world game set in Nazi-occupied France. And instead of playing some typical soldier, you're a drunken Irish race car driver turned resistance fighter. Yeah, you heard that right. You play as Sean Devlin, a guy who really hates Nazis and decides to take them down one explosion at a time. The whole game is built around this really slick black and white art style. When the Nazis have control over an area, everything is dark and lifeless. But as you start blowing up their outposts, assassinating officers, and causing absolute chaos, color starts creeping back into the world. It's a simple effect, but damn, it works. It makes every little victory feel like you're actually making a difference. And let's talk about gameplay. This isn't just a GTA-style open world. It's got parkour, stealth, gunfights, and straight-up sabotage missions where you blow up bridges, trains, and entire Nazi bases. You can go in quiet, sneaking around in disguises, or just go full Sean Devlin, guns blazing, leaving behind a trail of wreckage. The driving is really solid too, which makes sense since Sean's a racer at heart, and you get to tear through the streets of Paris in old-school sports cars, dodging Nazi patrols while blasting swing music from the radio.
How did the crowds know we'd be here?
There must be a leak somewhere.
The game also doesn't take itself too seriously. Sean's got that classic Irish charm, constantly cracking jokes and drinking whiskey in between missions, and the world is packed with hidden stashes, sabotage targets, and places to cause trouble, so there's always something to do. Sadly, the Saboteur got overshadowed when it launched, and to make things worse, Pandemic Studios, yeah, the same guys behind Mercenaries and Star Wars Battlefront 2, shut down right after releasing it, so it never got the love or sequel it deserved. But if you're into open world games with a unique setting, great atmosphere, and a protagonist who just does not give a damn, this one is absolutely worth playing. You probably missed it, but now is your chance to fix that. Freedom Fighters 2003. Now, this is one of those games that just hit different back in the day. You're just a regular dude who accidentally becomes the leader of a full-blown resistance against the Soviet invasion of America. Yeah, in this alternate history, the Soviets won the Cold War, and New York is now crawling with Red Army soldiers, attack helicopters, and propaganda blaring from every street corner. You play as Chris Stone, a plumber, yes, an actual plumber, who was just minding his own business until the Soviets rolled in and started rounding people up. One thing leads to another, and before you know it, you're out there leading a squad, blowing up enemy bases, and turning the tide of war one mission at a time. The game throws you right into urban guerrilla warfare, where you start off fighting solo, but gradually build up a whole squad of freedom. And the best part? You can command them in real time with one of the simplest and best squad command systems ever made. Seriously, this game came out in 2003, and most modern squad-based shooters still haven't done it better. Gameplay-wise, it's a mix of third-person shooting, squad tactics, and open-ended mission design. Instead of just running from point A to point B, you're given a bunch of different objectives: blow up a fuel depot, take out a sniper nest, rescue prisoners, and how you complete them actually affects future missions. Maybe you destroy a Soviet helipad in one mission, then in the next one you won't have to deal with helicopters chasing you down. It makes every mission feel connected, like you're actually waging a strategic war rather than just running through levels. And man, the vibe of this game is just on point. The music? Absolutely legendary, with this Soviet choir-style soundtrack that makes every firefight feel 10 times more intense. The world? Full of propaganda posters, occupied buildings, and civilians either cowering in fear or rising up alongside you. And the Soviets? They're not faceless enemies, they've got officers, propaganda broadcasts, and a real presence in the city, which makes the fight feel personal. It's honestly insane that Freedom Fighters never got a proper sequel. IO Interactive, the same devs behind Hitman, made it, and you can see some of that DNA in the game's open-ended mission design, but instead of getting a sequel, they moved on to Kane and Lynch and Hitman, and Freedom Fighters just kinda faded into history. If you never played this one, fix that. It's one of the best alternate history action games out there, and even today, it still holds up as one of the best squad-based shooters ever made. Lost Odyssey, 2007. If you're a fan of old school JRPGs but somehow never played Lost Odyssey, man, you missed out. This game is basically what Final Fantasy could have been if Square Enix didn't go all in on sci-fi and weird experimental mechanics, and it's really one of the most underrated RPGs ever made. First off, the guy behind Hirobu Sakaguchi is the same dude who created Final Fantasy, and you feel that. It's got that classic turn-based combat, the deep emotional storytelling, and a world that actually feels alive. But what makes it special is its main character, Kaim Argonar. Dude's an immortal warrior who's been alive for 1,000 years, and the game is all about him trying to piece together his past while dealing with the fact that everyone he's ever loved has died while he just keeps on living. It's heavy, man. And let's talk about those dream sequences. Throughout the game, Kaim randomly remembers parts of his past, and instead of just showing you cutscenes, the game gives you these incredibly well-written short stories that hit hard, like straight up some of the best writing in any RPG period. Some of them are about love, loss, and regret, others are just about the loneliness of being immortal, and they're all beautifully written. Seriously, if you've got a soul, at least one of these stories will break you. Combat-wise, it's turn-based but has this cool timing mechanic where you have to press a button at the right moment to land stronger attacks. It keeps fights engaging without overcomplicating things, and since you're playing as immortals, they don't die permanently in battle. They'll go down, but after a few turns, they just get back up like nothing happened. It makes for some awesome moments where your human party members are struggling, but then Kaim and the other immortals just keep pushing forward, like warriors who literally can't be stopped. The only real downside was that it was exclusive to the Xbox 360, which is probably why so many people missed out on it. But if you can get your hands on it, Lost Odyssey is absolutely worth playing. It's one of the best JRPGs that nobody talks about, and honestly, it might just be better than a lot of Final Fantasy games. Binary Domain, 2012. Alright, Binary Domain is one of the most slept on third-person shooters ever. Like, if you took Gears of War, threw in some Ghost in the Shell vibes, and made it way more emotional than you'd expect, you'd get this game. It's got killer robot fights, squad-based combat, and a story that starts off feeling like a dumb action flick, but turns into something way deeper. So the setup, it's 2080, and robots are everywhere, working alongside humans, but some shady corporation has been making these illegal androids called Hollow Children. Robots that look exactly like humans and don't even know they're machines. Yeah, it's basically Blade Runner, but with way more explosions. You play as Dan Marshall, a wisecracking soldier who's part of an international squad sent to Tokyo to take down the corporation responsible. Simple mission, right? Nope, things get wild. And man, the shooting, so satisfying. You're not just pumping bullets into generic enemies, you're tearing robots apart piece by piece. Shoot a bot in the leg, it'll start crawling toward you. Blow off its arm, it'll switch to melee attacks, and if you take out its head, sometimes it'll start attacking its own squad mates because it can't tell friend from foe anymore. It makes every fight feel dynamic, like you're actually dismantling these things rather than just spraying bullets. But here's where Binary Domain does something different. It's got a trust system. Your squad mates react to how you fight, how you talk to them, and even how you give orders. Treat them well and they'll listen to your commands. Screw up or act like a jerk, they'll straight up ignore you in combat. And this actually affects the story, changing character relationships and even which ending you get. It's not perfect, the voice command system is kinda janky, but the idea, way ahead of its time. Now, let's talk about the story, because this is what makes the game special. What starts as a typical bad robots need to be stopped plot slowly turns into something way more thought-provoking. Without spoiling too much, the game starts asking some deep questions about humanity, artificial intelligence, and what it really means to be alive. And it does it way better than you'd expect from a game that looks like just another cover shooter. There are some moments in the last few hours that will legit have you sitting there like, damn, that just happened? Catherine, 2011.
We all have the same fate. When you die, you've got to...
Man, Catherine is really weird. Like, really weird. It's part puzzle game, part psychological horror, part relationship drama, and somehow it works. It's not the kind of game you recommend to everyone, but if you're into unique story-driven games that mess with your head, this one's a trip. So you play as Vincent, a 32-year-old dude who's stuck in a classic life crisis. He's been with his girlfriend Catherine for years, and she's starting to talk about marriage, settling down, responsibility, you know, grown-up stuff. Vincent, being kind of a lazy idiot, isn't sure what he wants. Then, one night, he wakes up next to Catherine, a completely different woman who's fun, wild, and the opposite of the settle down and be responsible type. The problem is, he has no memory of how she even got there. And from there, his life spirals into complete chaos. Every night, Vincent gets pulled into these horrifying nightmare sequences where he has to climb massive towers made of blocks. If he falls, he dies in real life. The whole thing plays out like this intense, fast-paced puzzle game where you have to move blocks, avoid traps, and run for your damn life while giant, monstrous versions of his fears chase him down. Imagine a giant baby screaming, "Daddy!" while trying to crush you to death, or a terrifying demonic bride trying to stab you. It gets that insane. But the real hook is the story. Catherine isn't just about puzzles, it's about choices, consequences, and relationships. The game keeps asking you these deep, sometimes uncomfortable questions about love, loyalty, and commitment, and your answers actually shape how things play out. Depending on how you handle Vincent's situation, you can end up with multiple different endings, some where he grows up and makes the right choice, others where he completely goes off the rails. And let's talk about the visuals and music. The game has that signature Persona-style anime look since it's from Atlas, and the soundtrack is just incredible. It's this mix of remixed classical music and eerie, atmospheric tracks that fit the game's unsettling tone perfectly. Now, is it for everyone? Hell no, the game can get brutally hard, especially in the later puzzle stages. The story, while super engaging, is one of those love it or hate it things because of how messy and chaotic the characters' relationships are. But if you're into psychological horror, deep storytelling, and games that actually challenge you, Catherine is absolutely worth playing. It's one of the most unique games out there, and even years later, nothing else feels quite like it. Jet Set Radio Future 2002. Now this is a game that oozes style. Jet Set Radio Future isn't just about skating around, it's about rebellion, freedom, and straight up vibing to one of the sickest soundtracks ever put in a video game. It's the kind of game that feels like a time capsule of the early 2000s, but at the same time, nothing else has ever really matched its energy since. You play as a group of graffiti tagging inline skating punks called the GGs, fighting against an oppressive corporate regime that's trying to take over the city. The whole game is set in a futuristic Tokyo, but not in the neon cyberpunk way you'd expect. It's more like this crazy, cel-shaded, hyper-stylized version of the city where everything feels smooth, colorful, and alive. You're constantly skating, grinding on rails, jumping off walls, and tagging graffiti spots while dodging cops, rival gangs, and even military forces that will straight up come at you with helicopters and tanks. And man, the movement in this game just feels amazing. Unlike the original Jet Set Radio, which had a more rigid, trick-based skating system, Future goes all in on flow. You can grind on almost anything, transition between tricks effortlessly, and keep up your momentum in a way that makes it feel like you're dancing through the city. The levels are massive, filled with hidden areas and crazy shortcuts that make you feel like a parkour god when you finally master them. But let's be real, this game was ahead of its time in way too many ways. It had a completely unique look with its cel-shaded art style, a ridiculously good soundtrack, and an open-ended level design that encouraged exploration and experimentation. Yet, it never got the mainstream love it deserved. It was exclusive to the original Xbox, which limited its audience, and Sega never really pushed it the way they should have. Even today, it's hard to find anything quite like Jet Set Radio Future. There have been spiritual successors like Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, but nothing has truly captured that perfect mix of smooth gameplay, rebellious attitude, and pure style. If you somehow get the chance to play it, don't sleep on it. This one's a classic that still holds up ridiculously well. Shadow of the Colossus, 2005. Man, Shadow of the Colossus isn't just a game, it's an experience. One of those rare games that stick with you long after you finish it. It's quiet, it's lonely, it's breathtaking, and somehow, despite barely having any dialogue, it tells one of the most emotional stories in gaming. The setup is simple. You're Wander, a lone warrior who travels to a forbidden land to bring a girl named Mono back to life. You don't know much about her or what happened to her, but you do know one thing: if you want to revive her, you have to take down 16 massive godlike creatures called Colossi. There are no side quests, no distractions, no random enemies, just you, your horse, and these towering ancient beings standing in your way. And these Colossi, they're not just bosses, they are the game. Each one is like a living puzzle. Some are slow and massive, some are fast and aggressive, some fly through the sky or swim through the water. Figuring out how to climb onto them, find their weak points, and take them down feels like a mix of platforming, strategy, and pure desperation. And the best part? Every fight feels different. Some Colossi are aggressive and will charge at you, others won't even notice you until you start climbing them. Some require insane stunts like launching yourself off your horse to grab onto them mid-gallop. But here's what makes Shadow of the Colossus special. Every time you take one of these giants down, it doesn't feel like a victory. The music shifts from epic and intense to something sad and tragic, and Wander collapses as a shadowy force seeps into his body. You start to wonder, are you really the hero here? What if these creatures aren't monsters, but something sacred that you're destroying? The game never spoon-feeds you answers, but as you progress, Wander physically changes. He looks weaker, more corrupted, more wrong. And by the time you reach the final Colossus, the weight of everything you've done really starts to hit. Visually, this game was stunning for its time. The world is massive and hauntingly empty, filled with vast plains, ancient ruins, and endless skies. There's no music as you explore, just the sound of wind, water, and your horse's footsteps. It makes you feel the isolation in a way most games don't. And when the music does kick in during battles, it's some of the most powerful orchestral scoring ever put in a game. If you've never played Shadow of the Colossus, you need to. It's one of the most unique and unforgettable games ever made. Whether you play the original PS2 version, the PS3 remaster, or the full-on PS4 remake, the experience is just as powerful. It's a game that proves you don't need a huge cast, tons of dialogue, or endless mechanics to tell a deep and emotional story. Sometimes all you need is a horse, a sword, and a question you might not want the answer to. Okami, 2006. If you've ever wished Zelda had more painting and a lot more wolf action, Okami is exactly what you're looking for. But honestly, even that comparison doesn't do it justice. This game is its own thing, a one-of-a-kind masterpiece that somehow still feels underrated despite how beloved it is. It's got style, it's got charm, and it's got one of the most unique gameplay mechanics of any action-adventure game out there. You play as Amaterasu, a literal sun goddess who takes the form of a white wolf. Your goal? To restore life and beauty to a cursed land that's been swallowed by darkness. Sounds like your typical save the world setup, but what makes Okami so special is how you do it. Instead of just swinging a sword or casting spells, you use the Celestial Brush, a magical tool that lets you draw on the screen to manipulate the world. You can slash enemies by drawing a line, create bombs with a circle, or even summon the sun by painting a little scribble in the sky. And it's not just a gimmick. The brush mechanics are woven into the gameplay, puzzles, and combat in a way that makes everything feel interactive and creative. You're not just pressing buttons, you're painting your way through the game, and it makes even the simplest actions feel magical. And the art style? Okami is pure eye candy. The whole game looks like a living watercolor painting inspired by traditional Japanese ink wash art. Every frame is bursting with color and every movement feels like brush strokes coming to life. Even today it looks gorgeous, and the HD remasters only make it shine even more. Then there's the story, which is packed with Japanese mythology, quirky characters, and some surprisingly emotional moments. Amaterasu might be a silent protagonist, but she's full of personality, and her tiny bug-sized companion, Ishun, make sure there's never a dull moment. The game balances humor, adventure, and mythology in a way that keeps things engaging the whole way through. If there's one downside, it's that the game can be a little long-winded. There's a lot of dialogue and the intro takes a while to get going, but once you're in, it's an adventure that's absolutely worth experiencing. The combat, the puzzles, the exploration, it all comes together in one of the most unique and beautiful action-adventure games ever made. And yet, Okami never got the mainstream success it deserved. It came out late in the PS2's life cycle, got a Wii port that was great but didn't blow up, and by the time it hit HD consoles, it still felt like a hidden gem instead of a blockbuster. But if you haven't played it, do yourself a favor and fix that. It's one of those games that feels timeless, whether you play it on PS2, PS3, PS4, Switch, or PC. It's still just as incredible today as it was back in 2006. Spec Ops: The Line 2012. Some games are fun, some are cinematic, and some just hit you different. Spec Ops: The Line is that last kind of game. It starts off looking like just another military shooter, dusty deserts, a squad of soldiers, orders to follow, but by the time you're done, it's something way more than that. It's one of the few shooters that actually makes you stop and think about what you're doing, and it doesn't hold your hand or give you a nice, clean ending. You play as Captain Martin Walker, leading a small team into a ruined Dubai to locate a missing colonel named John Conrad. At first, it's standard military game stuff, enemy soldiers, shootouts, and radio chatter, but slowly, things start getting off. The city isn't just abandoned, it's a war zone where nothing makes sense. Orders from command don't add up, the people you're fighting aren't who you thought they were, and before you know it, you're knee-deep in moral choices that don't have a right answer. And man, the moments in this game. There's one scene, if you've played it, you know the one, where everything just shifts. Up until then, you think you're in control, doing what needs to be done, but after that, you start questioning every single thing Walker does. The game forces you into awful situations and makes you sit with the consequences. No heroic speeches, no pat on the back, just the weight of what you did. And it never stops. The deeper you go, the more Walker unravels, and by the end, you're not even sure who the bad guy is anymore.
I'm gonna kill every last one of your men.
The gameplay itself? Solid cover-based shooting, but that's not really the point. The way the game uses combat is what makes it brilliant. It starts out feeling like your typical third-person shooter, but as things spiral out of control, even the gunfights start feeling different. Enemies scream in fear, your squad mates start losing it, and even the way Walker talks changes. By the end, he's not shouting orders, he's just screaming. Visually, it nails the whole beauty turned to horror vibe. Dubai looks gorgeous in that unsettling way. Skyscrapers buried in sand, neon signs flickering in abandoned malls, bodies half buried in dunes. Spec Ops: The Line is not here to make you feel good, it's not here to glorify war, it's here to mess you up, to make you question everything, to make you feel the same breakdown Walker is going through. It's rare to find a game that tells a story like this, especially in a genre that usually leans on power fantasies. If you somehow missed it, you need to play it. Just be ready, because once you finish it, it'll stick with you forever. Shenmue 1 and 2, 2001. If you ever wondered what it was like to live inside a slow-burning, detail-obsessed martial arts revenge story, Shenmue is the game. It's one of those titles that people either swear by or just don't get, but no matter where you fall, there's no denying how much it changed gaming. Open world, side activities, day-night cycles, NPCs with full routines, stuff we take for granted now. Yeah, Shenmue was doing that back in 1999. You play as Ryo Hazuki, a young guy from Japan whose father gets straight up murdered in front of him by a mysterious dude in a robe named Lan Di. Ryo, being the stubborn, revenge-driven protagonist that he is, sets off on a journey to find out why his father was killed and track down Lan Di, no matter what it takes. But unlike most games where revenge means just grabbing a sword and charging in, Shenmue makes you actually live in Ryo's world. Now, you don't just go from mission to mission, you work part-time jobs, talk to shopkeepers, ask around for information, and even feed a stray kitten. And that's what makes Shenmue so unique. It's slow, yeah, but that's kind of the point. The game isn't about rushing, it's about immersing yourself in the daily life of Yokosuka, Japan. You explore the streets, chat with locals, play arcade games, train your martial arts skills, and wait for events to unfold in real time. Some people find that pace frustrating, but others love how it makes everything feel real. The second game expands on this even more, moving the action to Hong Kong with bigger environments, new characters, and way more freedom. And when the fights do happen, they matter. The combat is straight out of Virtua Fighter, fast, technical, and way more about skill than button mashing. You train, you improve, and when you finally get into a brawl, it feels earned. The QTEs, yep, Shenmue basically invented those, are actually intense because they show up out of nowhere, forcing you to react in the moment instead of just following prompts. The graphics were mind-blowing for their time, and even now, there's something special about how detailed the world is. Every street, every building, every NPC, they all have purpose, and the music, straight up perfect. It nails that nostalgic, cinematic feel that makes every quiet moment hit just right. System Shock 2, 1999. You ever play a game that feels way ahead of its time? That's System Shock 2, before BioShock, before Dead Space, before basically every horror FPS with RPG mechanics. System Shock 2 was doing it first. It's creepy, it's brutal, and it gives you just enough freedom to make you feel in control right before pulling the rug out from under you. The setup is classic sci-fi horror. You wake up on a spaceship, the Von Braun, and everything has gone to hell. The crew, mostly dead or worse. The halls, full of creatures that used to be people, and worst of all, there's this voice, an AI named Shodan, watching you from the shadows, pulling the strings in ways you don't even understand yet. If HAL 9000 had a god complex and really wanted to mess with you, that's Shodan. She doesn't just threaten you, she taunts you, plays mind games, and makes you feel like you're never really in control. Gameplay-wise, this thing is dense. It's not just a shooter, it's an RPG, a survival horror game, and a full-on immersive sim all at once. You pick a class, Marine, Hacker, or Psyops, and that choice actually matters. Marines get better weapons, Hackers can break into security systems, and Psyops can mess with enemies using crazy psychic powers. No matter what though, ammo is scarce, resources are limited, and every fight is terrifying because if you screw up, you might not have enough left to survive the next one. Exploration is where the game really shines. The Von Braun isn't just some generic spaceship, it's a fully realized, interconnected world. You don't just move from level to level, you navigate, backtrack, and uncover bits of the story through audio logs and environmental storytelling. And man, those logs, some of the best in gaming. Listening to the slow breakdown of the crew as they realize what's happening is straight up chilling. If you're a fan of games like BioShock, Prey, 2017, or even Deus Ex, you owe it to yourself to check out System Shock 2. Yeah, the UI is clunky, and yeah, it's got that old school PC jank, but once you get past that, it's one of the smartest, most immersive horror RPGs ever made. And the best part, Shodan never lets you forget that she's always in control. Grim Fandango, 1998. If you've never played Grim Fandango, you're missing out on one of the greatest adventure games ever made. No exaggeration, this game is legendary. It's got that classic LucasArts humor, an incredible story, and some of the best world building in gaming. Plus, the whole thing is set in the land of the dead, but instead of being all dark and depressing, it's this stylish, noir-inspired world full of charm, mystery, and hilarious characters. And You play as Manny Calavera, a Grim Reaper. Except in this world, Reapers are more like underpaid travel agents. See, when someone dies, they don't just move on. They need a travel package to get to the 9th underworld, the final resting place. Rich souls get an express ticket, while the less fortunate, they walk. For 4 years, Manny, stuck working at the Department of Death, starts to realize something shady is going on with his clients and ends up on a journey that spans years across the underworld, chasing a conspiracy that gets bigger and bigger the deeper he digs. The writing? Top tier. This is Tim Schafer at his best. Every conversation is sharp, witty, and full of personality. The characters are so damn good, whether it's Manny's over-the-top, lovable mechanic Glottis, or Domino, the smug rival you love to hate. And the setting? It's like a mix of classic film noir and Dia de los Muertos with skeletons in suits, neon-lit casinos, and smoky jazz lounges. Every place you visit, from the gloomy El Mero to the lively Rubacava, feels like it has a life, or afterlife, of its own.
Workers shall control the means of production. Yes!
The only real downside, it's an old-school adventure game, which means puzzles that can sometimes feel way too obscure. If you're not used to classic point-and-click logic, you will get stuck. But honestly, the story, the characters, and the world are so worth it. Plus, the remastered version makes it way easier to play today without all the clunky old controls. If you love story-driven games, especially ones with a unique setting and great dialogue, Grim Fandango is a must-play. It's got humor, heart, and some of the best writing in gaming.
Going down, down, down. Oh, rusty anchor. Guess you gotta hang around.
Psychonauts, 2005. Psychonauts is one of those games that's just oozing creativity from start to finish. It's weird, it's hilarious, and it's packed with some of the most unique levels you'll ever see in a platformer. If you never got around to playing it, you seriously missed out on one of the most original games of the 2000s. You play as Rasputin Raz, a kid who runs away from the circus to sneak into a summer camp for psychic spies. Because, of course, that's a thing. He's got mind powers, he's got big dreams, and he's ready to prove he can be a psychonaut. But naturally, things do not go as planned. The camp isn't just a training ground, it's the center of a full-blown mystery, and kids' brains are being stolen. Raz ends up diving into people's minds to uncover the truth, and that's where the game really shines. Every level! It's not just a different environment, it's a completely different concept. Since you're exploring minds, each stage reflects the personality and trauma of the person it belongs to. One minute you're in a twisted, nightmarish dentist's office, and the next you're on a giant board game battlefield inside the mind of a paranoid war general. And then there's the Milkman Conspiracy, which is still one of the most bizarre and brilliant levels ever made, full of weird, surveillance-obsessed characters that make zero sense, but also perfect sense. The humor is top-notch too. It's a Tim Schafer game, so expect a lot of quirky, offbeat comedy. The characters are all weirdos in the best way possible, from your drill sergeant instructor, Coach Oleander, to Dogen, a kid who casually talks about making people's heads explode. Every interaction is packed with personality, and the writing never takes itself too seriously. If you love games that do something different, Psychonauts is a must-play. It's got heart, it's got humor, and it's got some of the wildest level design in gaming. And hey, if you like it, the sequel finally came out years later, and it's just as good. Beyond Good and Evil, 2003. Beyond Good and Evil is one of those games that should have been a huge franchise by now. It had everything: great characters, a cool world, fun gameplay, but for some reason it just never got the attention it deserved. Ubisoft keeps teasing a sequel that may or may not exist, but honestly, the original still holds up as one of the best action-adventure games of its time. You play as Jade, a photojournalist living on the planet Hillies, which is under attack by these weird alien creatures called the Dom-Z. The government swears they're protecting everyone, but things don't add up, and before long, Jade gets pulled into a resistance movement to expose the truth. She's got a camera, a bow staff, and a pig uncle named Paige, and together they start uncovering a conspiracy that might just get them killed. One of the best parts of the game is how it mixes different styles of gameplay so seamlessly. You've got third-person combat with your staff, stealth sections where you sneak past guards, puzzle solving, and photography, which isn't just a gimmick, it's a core mechanic. You take pictures of the world, document evidence of corruption, and even snap wildlife for money. And then there's the hovercraft. You don't just run around on foot, you drive this badass little hovercraft all over Hillies, taking on races, chasing down enemies, and exploring hidden areas. The variety keeps the game from ever feeling stale. The world itself is just so well designed. Hillies feels like a real lived-in place with a cool mix of futuristic and organic elements. The people look weird, there are humanoid animals walking around like it's no big deal, and the environments are full of small details that make everything feel alive, and the music, absolute chef's kiss. The soundtrack has this mix of electronic beats and ethnic influences that just fits the game's vibe perfectly. It's not a super long game, probably around 10 hours, but every part of it is fun. The only real complaint is that the combat is really basic. It works, but it's nothing special, and the ending? It hits hard, but also leaves you with so many questions that still haven't been answered. If Ubisoft ever does release Beyond Good and Evil 2, it's got some serious expectations to live up to. If you like action-adventure games with great storytelling, fun exploration, and a world that feels unique, Beyond Good and Evil is 100% worth playing. Even after all these years, it still stands out as something special.
No matter what happens, good luck, Gene. Well, what'd you think?
I thought you were created just to drive.